This is the first of my rankings that I am writing for the express purpose of putting them up on the TubeDew afterwards, rather than only putting it on Tumblr, which is part of what makes it such a travesty that March was a rather thin month, like in terms of reading. I only checked out 6 books, and the 6 books that I checked out, most of them I didn't finish or even start. Half of these books I didn't even start, and one of the remaining 3 I only got a few chapters into. It's honestly somewhat shameful, but still, I'm going to rank what I read and then try to talk about them. And also try to rank the books that I checked out, but didn't get around to reading. So we're going to start with the unstarted books. We're going to start with The Wedding People by Alison Espach. This book is one that I made an effort to check out because it was popular, which is a decent enough reason for me most of the time. I like reading a lot of things because it gives me a lot of ideas. Even when a book is bad, sometimes it gives me ideas for stories of my own. That's not to say this book is bad. I haven't read it yet, so I can say March was not a good month. Disappointing. Next up, we have Inheritance by Nora Roberts. I checked this one out because it was popular and then never actually got around to reading a single bit of it. The blurb does make it look really interesting, though, so I'm hopeful that I'll get back around to it eventually. If you have any thoughts about it, please do let me know so that I can make an informed decision. Next, we're going to do books in progress that I checked out in March. We're going to start with A Crash of Fate by Zoraida Cordova. I know I said I hadn't started 3 of the books that I checked out in March, but then I remembered that I technically read 1 page of this book, so I'm putting it here instead. Could I edit the intro? Yeah, but I'm not going to. Deal with it. This is a Star Wars novel, which is why I checked it out. I wanted to read a Star Wars novel. This book is mistakenly put in Libby as Star Wars, annoyingly enough, so it showed up first when I searched Star Wars. Then April started, and I had other things I wanted to read more than whatever this is, some Galaxy's Edge plug. So while there aren't any of the books that replaced it on this list, yeah, it got replaced by other books that I wanted to read more. Maybe I'll come back around to it eventually when I'm in a Star Wars mood again, but honestly, I don't really care. The blurb isn't doing it for me, and the hook didn't do much for me either. The first chapter of Lisa Cron's Wildfire Story, my absolute favorite book on writing, includes an anecdote about a man who picked out a book to read from an airport bookstore by reading the first sentence of each book they had available and then purchasing the one that made him want to keep reading the most. While I doubt that A Crash of Fate was on those shelves, for one thing I think that it's too new of a book, if it had been, I know that man would not have chosen it, and neither would anyone else with sense. Don't judge a book by its cover, sure, but judging it by its first sentence? That's fair game, and also basic writing advice that people are going to do so. So, it happens. And this book has a bad first sentence. Game Changer by Rachel Reed. I didn't have much of a chance to read in March, which sucks. I finally got in my hole on this book, and I only got in a couple chapters before it was taken away from me again. I'm waiting some more now. It is what it is, What chapters I did get to read were awfully cute. It was tooth-rottingly sweet, which is apparently the optimal setting for romance stories, so that's certainly a positive. Well, I didn't get to any of the smut scenes myself. My Weir says they are quite bad. And that doesn't surprise me. Vanilla smut is rather boring in my mind. This is something proven by what I write on AO3. If you're familiar with what I write on AO3, it's either safe work or generally agreeable or the nastiest dead smut you've ever seen. Those are my only 2 modes. But I think that's for the best. Because, that's where I vibe. Anyway, it's pretty decent from what I can tell. But I still have to wait to get the book back so that I can finish it. And then we're going to move on to finished books. My Hero Academia Volume 7 by Kohei Horikoshi. I do not remember which part of the story this is. I'm bad at remembering what chapters things belong in. I'm so sorry. I think it's still Hosu, the end of Hosu. I've said my piece on the Hosu arc before this, if you've seen my previous videos. So I don't really have more to say about this without completely overtaking this video with a rant about My Hero Academia, which I don't mind doing, but I think y'all might mind me doing it. All like 2 of you that watch these videos. Alright, and then finally we have A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. You've probably heard of A Christmas Carol. If you haven't read it yourself, you've probably seen a movie adaptation. If you haven't watched one that's trying to fit the original source material exactly, the song's been adapted by everything from The Muppets to My Little Pony. Like, the story has been adapted so many times. The chances of you not having experienced this story are incredibly slim. I will say some of the adaptations lighten somewhat the messaging of the class divide. Dickens was a very political author, but still, chances are that I don't have to tell you this is a good story. You already know, and you know it pretty well. Alright, in conclusion, that's a wrap on everything I read in the month of March. It was a very thin month, I admit, but hey, at least I read A Christmas Carol in the entirely wrong month. But it was the best thing I read in said month, so who really cares? If you liked this ranking, please do stick around. I will be doing more of such, and additionally we'll be working on some other essays that perhaps one might find interesting. If anyone wants me to talk more in depth about any of these topics, do let me know, and I'll make an effort to do just that. Thank you ever so for listening, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye now!